In this video, we're going to demonstrate how to create a multi-value KPI card using the Inforiver visual. What you might not realize is that the visual here in the upper right is in fact the Inforiver custom visual that has been highly customized to create a unique looking output that looks more like a multi-value KPI visual than a table itself. It still has a lot of the features such as the ability to expand or collapse any of the hierarchies within the visual itself. The cross-filtering will work between this and all the other visuals that you see onto the page, both between the Inforiver visual and the other native visuals, as well as the native visuals and Inforiver itself. Plus, any other advanced model logic you might have done to be able to switch measures or anything else will also apply within the Inforiver if configured appropriately. So let's go ahead and walk through how this is created. So we have a standard configuration for Inforiver here with both hierarchies on rows and month and year on the columns that you see over here. So to start with, let's go ahead and use the page views as an example, and I'm going to create a spark line off of that. So I'm going to come up to this, and I will select the spark column. And one thing that's great about the spark column is it automatically adds conditional formatting KPIs for the high and low values for each of the rows that you see here, where it gives a good callout indication for those plus a data label. If I select this and come up to customize, we can now also turn off all of the children since we don't need those anymore since they are visible now in the spark column. And now the next thing I want to do is compare my page views with the prior year value. I'm going to come up to the chart options up here, and I'm going to select IBCS bullet. And now that we've added both the visuals that we need, let's come up to the header and you can see some of the options I can configure this with. I'm going to double click here, which will open the editor. As you can see, there are many options available to configure this at the top. I'm going to start by coming up to split and selecting left, which will cut it in half and give me two containers to put information into. So I'm going to come over to here and I'm going to shrink down the left side one, make this a little bit taller, and let's start giving this some information. I will start with the title. There we are. And below it, if I hit enter, I can now come up to cell value. And I'm going to come over to the page views total, like that, and you can see that that is now referenced in here. So I'll add one more, and then we'll close the editor to see how this looks. But below that, I'm going to again come to cell value, and I'm going to select the percentage right here. There we go. Now, I can even make this additionally smaller. Now, even though it's wrapping in this container here, it will display differently once it actually loads the data. So let's go ahead and close the editor. Okay, it's getting closer to what we would look like. However, I can still format this even further. I'm going to come back and double click on this. I'm going to take page views, select that, come to home. I'm going to increase the font size a little bit. There we are. And bold that as well. So again, coming back and closing that. All right, we're starting to get a little bit closer, but there's still some more work that I can do. I'm going to come back and open the header again. One other thing that you can do with the containers, I would like to create a little bit of padding because when I compact this, this text will touch the border of this visual and I want to give a bit of spacing. So I'm going to come up to margin and give that about 8 pixels of spacing. And you'll see this observed later once I shrink this down, but I'll keep that there for now. And now what I can do is come over to this container and I'm going to select the chart icon here, which will ask if I want to replace the text data with a chart. I will select proceed. And I'm going to select the grand total spark column right here. Now it might look a little stretched out at the moment, but when we shrink this container, it will look a lot better. So for now, let's go ahead and close the editor again. Now the percentage value in the multi-row KPI card on the left is looking a little, so let's add some things to it. I'm actually going to come over to the source column where it's coming from, come back to the home ribbon. I'm going to come over to prefix and suffix. I'm going to add a suffix to this of a percentage symbol with a space and a percentage. Select apply. You can see that the percentage symbol is added there and also into the card at the top. And we can even further enhance this by coming up to conditional formatting. I'm going to go to classification and I'm going to add some icon sets into here. Let's add this to the values and totals. And I'm going to come down and customize the icons. I will delete the middle color. I just simply want it to be either red or green from a no bottom minimum to 0. And then from 0 to a no ceiling max. And I want to make sure not to exclude it from my grand total. So check that, select apply. And the symbol now appears both in the column and into the KPI card at the top. Close out of this, and we can actually now come up to manage columns, and we can hide all the original columns that aren't needed. I don't need the trend line or any of these other source columns. The only thing left that I want visible is my row category labels with the hierarchy controls, plus the option as well to be able to show that IBCS chart. Close out of this. I'm also going to come to display and further configure this to allow it to be a bit more compact. If we come over to hierarchies, we can actually have an option to squash column headers. I'll close this in a second, but notice up here month and year and grand total. That will go away as soon as I enable this. So now it allows me to fit this in a more compact space. Close out of this here. A couple of other cleanup practices that we'll do as well. I'm going to turn on the rails. I'm going to come up to this and I want to give this center alignment. Come over here, center align that, turn back off the rails. And now I can actually take this visual and let's go ahead and collapse it and see how it looks in a smaller space. There we are. And now I have the options to come over to the column hierarchy controls and collapse the level. Resize this just a little bit more once again. There we are. Now we've made a very compact visual onto the page, which at this point doesn't even look like a matrix table anymore. It looks more like a multi-value or performance KPI card that is a series of KPIs that are at the top, plus all of the values below. And it looks like this is getting a little squished over here, so I can still edit it even in this form. I'm actually going to increase that just a little bit. So let's close the editor. There we go. So that's now fixed. You can see that even the controls have a compact form that's showing up here based off of the size. So everything in Inforiver will scale and size based on how big the container is. But this is just a great example of how versatile this can be to create a very powerful visual that can be onto the page, and coming back to our primary report, can be very well integrated with a much larger report with a lot of other visuals and be able to have many of those features for cross-highlighting and interaction in a larger report if you wanted to use it in this compact form.